So
So
this is the episode. We have begun.
Na 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 Goobcast.
all right, I think we got ourselves our intro. Yeah. So
Yes,
Is that
finally.
the
well,
Daria theme song that you were singing?
Indeed, I'm glad somebody caught on to
That
that.
is trademarked.
I was hoping somebody would call me out on that.
well, it's okay. You know, it's your rendition of it. Your
I
transformative
haven't thought
version.
about that show in like 2 decades. Man.
You know, the only reason I was thinking about it was because I just finished watching, well, like a week ago, um, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Zuko's girlfriend is basically the Dario of that show.
That's pretty true.
Mhm.
That's pretty correct on that one.
God, I love that show so good.
It is really good indeed. So again, what was our topics again?
Oh yeah.
Alright,
Well,
this is the Goob Squad. We got me, Apollo, we got Sean there, we got D'Angelo, we got Carlos. We're back. Yeah. So our topics for this one, our main topic is going to be what a genre of either TV or movies or games, whatever you choose, that is a clone of something. It's a clone of another game or whatever, but the clone itself actually ends up elevating that genre above the original or bring something new to it. Yeah, and then we were gonna before that we're gonna just start off with just a couple pieces of news. Some of the stuff that came out of the DC fandom event that DC held a couple days ago, and then maybe the Ghost of Tsushima stuff. So in terms, has everybody seen all the at least I guess the four main things that came out of the DC fandom, like the Batman trailer, and then the Gotham Knights thing, the
I know
game that
about the Gotham Knights game.
yeah, and then the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League game from Rocksteady, and then the Snyder Cut thing. Did everybody at least know about that stuff?
Yeah,
So
I heard about
Okay.
yeah, I know of those things, but I have not watched the Gotham Knights trailer, nor the Suicide Squad trailer by Rocksteady, right?
The Suicide Squad one is by Rocksteady. Yeah.
I only seen the King Shark model for the Suicide Squad game, but I
mean,
did see
yeah.
some gameplay footage of Gotham Knights.
Yeah. So what did all right, let's start with those two then. What did you guys think of the Gotham Knights? Or what do you like so you know what it is, Carlos, right?
So no, go ahead. Fill me
So
in. 'Cause
it's
honestly, I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's from WB Games Montreal, the guys who did the Arkham Origins game between City and Knight, and it's like apparently it's like a the way the trailer shows it is that it's like there's four people, like it's a co-op thing where you're like in Gotham City and you can play as either Batgirl or Robin or Red Hood or Nightwing. Apparently, it's only so. But despite them showing like four players, it's apparently only two-player co-op is what they confirmed, which is odd.
That's strange. I know. Why are you gonna? Why would you have like four characters, and clearly, have a service for four players and only do it at two co-op? But continue.
No, I mean that's 100%. Like that's what I was wondering. It's really, really weird because especially the way the trailer is set up, like it really emphasizes like there are four players here. Like they're really showing off like all the sigils and like all the combat moves of all four players, and they're showing them on screen like on in like a cinematic like all together and stuff. But they're not. But it's apparently only two-player co-op. I didn't actually see the gameplay of it. I just watched the initial trailer. You saw the gameplay trailer, D'Angelo?
I didn't see the trailer, but I know what the premise is.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly for me, it's they've been teasing this for a long time because apparently this is the whole Court of Owls game that they've been teasing for like literally 3 years with their bullshit like logo teases and stuff. And this is not what I expected. I'll hold my reservations off until the game's actually out. But just in terms of first impressions, I was definitely I was underwhelmed by it for sure. And like Arkham Origins it had a good amount of potential, and the story was really good, especially for a game that like WB sort of forced WB Games Montreal to make in like a year because they knew that Arkham City wouldn't be out in time. Like, and they wanted something to fill the time between City and Night. So, like,
I had totally forgotten, by the way, that Origins existed in.
most people have. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate because it actually was a solid game with a really good story. They tweaked the combat system just a little bit, and it actually fucked it up completely. But it actually was a solid game. And if they had more time, like, and been able to sort of had more liberty with it, I think it would have been a great game. But yeah, this is just. I'm not really excited about this game. It's kind of unfortunate, but we'll see. I don't know.
I'm totally trying to catch up to it as we speak. Because
Go
ahead. Could we have like some? Do you think we should have some sort of reaction? I don't know, over the stream right now.
I mean,
or would be video? Yeah. Do we get demonetized?
No.
We're not monetized now. I mean, you have to
You have
to have a certain amount of stuff to be monetized.
Well, first of all,
anyway.
I mean, let's pretend if we are, yes, you can do it. It's just reactions. So it's
true.
Yeah, you can
anyway. It's fair use, yeah.
It doesn't violate fair use things. Yeah, it would only be like 2.5 minutes anyway. It's not like 10 or anyway. So what did you guys like? What did Sean and D'Angelo? What did you guys think of that? The guy.
Okay, so on my end right now, your mic is going in and out. Is anybody else suffering that right now?
I definitely hear him.
Still was able to catch a lot of what he said.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. Are we gonna take a brief pause and just kind of readjust, or?
No, just keep going. You guys can just keep going, and I'll disconnect and then try to come back again.
Yeah.
I'll just pretend Paul is auto-tuning his voice.
That works too.
Well, generally speaking, I mean, it's a open world Batman-related title, and it's giving you the option to play as other characters. I kind of understand the two-player co-op is a bit weird, but thinking about it from a logistics standpoint, maybe there's still that male audience that doesn't want to get stuck playing Batgirl, which is probably why they want to give the options, because like in every four-player co-op team that goes online, someone might get hassled for that.
I mean, maybe it's not so much the female character, more like there's only 4 players to choose from, and therefore you'll be stuck with one.
I want to.
Like, I don't want to play Jason Todd. I want to be
like 2 people want to be Nightwing at the same time, or something.
Yeah. That makes sense now. Like, in that context, that makes sense.
So I'm watching the trailer. I just watched the trailer right now, and one central question is that it's the trailer that they showed.
I don't know.
Is the trailer that they showed in engine? Like, is that the way the game is going to look? Or is that just CG?
I'm pretty sure that's the gameplay.
The one where Superman, shows up at the end. Spoiler alert.
Oh, that is not.
That's the Suicide Squad one.
That's the Suicide Squad.
Okay, I'm in a total different page then.
Good job, Boomer.
Yeah, that one's all CG. Yeah, there's no gameplay in that trailer.
All right, let's look at the Gotham Knights then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of strong reservations about or against it. I like the concept. I think the 2-player co-op sort of makes sense, only just to exercise the burden of choice to a player who may or may not want to get stuck playing one character. So just because there's 4 options doesn't necessarily mean that 4 players is necessarily going to look good on the user experience, because as progressive as we are, we know there's going to be some players online who are going to have groups where someone gets hassled for playing Batgirl. We like it or lump it, there's still that kind of viewpoint out there. So even if she kicks major ass, people are still going to hassle for it. So it's like, I hate that that's the world we live in, but it happens. So
Do you think that people are gonna be?
so maybe they might have been thinking about that in terms of the design scale.
I think it'd be more
maybe,
so.
maybe. Yeah.
I think yeah.
You mean
it makes
that
sense
people are
that...
gonna have a backlash for the Batgirl because of?
Nah, not like that. I don't think
Oh,
so.
okay.
No, we're talking about solely the mechanic of there's 4 characters to choose from, but if you do a 4-player co-op, you are essentially who gets to
But
pick
you
first.
can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's basically player experience versus practicality here.
Right.
Yeah.
So that I guess that makes sense. That's why it got narrowed down to just
Maybe. I don't think that that's the reason, but I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
It's just that the way that the trailer sets it up, it really does make it look like it's going to be 4 players. Like like before they announced, before like I read that they confirmed that it was going to be only 2. Like I thought for sure, oh, this is going to be 4-player co-op. But well, because Carlos, you said that like you were talking about how like maybe it's 2-player co-op because of the whole dynamic duo thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
I mean, I don't think that's the reason. Like, honestly, just because like there's been so many instances of like the Bat family being all out at the same time, and especially in the Court of Owls storyline, or it's actually after the Court of Owls thing, but it's the Night of Owls thing where they're all like, basically, there's been like an assassin sent after each of the Bat family members as well as Catwoman, and they're like each going out and like doing a mission separately and then coming back together fighting the Talon assassins separately. So I feel like I don't feel like personally the dynamic duo thing plays a part in it, especially because like in the previous, I mean, this isn't an Arkham game, but like in the previous Arkham games by Rocksteady, you see multiple members of the Bat family out on the prowl like at the same time. So I just don't feel like that would be a reason.
Let me ask you. Last time that okay, good. I didn't drop anything important. Let me ask you. I didn't play Arkham Knight, but if I'm not mistaken, you can play. You can play as 2 characters at the same time in Arkham Knight, right?
During some of the fights, yeah.
Well, I figured that that's probably where they got their inspiration to have a 2-team, a 2-team dynamic. Figuring out that it would probably be interesting for them to balance the game from like a 2-person perspective. Like it would actually, the co-op would definitely would work better for them that way, because from one that I'm seeing from the trailer and from the gameplay trailer is that basically the mechanics that are from the old Arkham Knight games are still being applied to these games.
Sure. But I mean, in those games, like that makes sense. But like in those games, like one player or in the Arkham games, like the one player is controlling 2 characters at once. So like maybe it will be that way where it's like there's only 2 players, like going co-op, but like each player can control 2 players at once, like switch back and forth between the characters during the fights. I could see that potentially being an interesting mechanic.
Why do you think that it was that they chose to go, for a 2 co-op person dynamic rather than a 4-person dynamic?
I mean, I have no idea. Maybe it is something as simple as balancing. Personally, I mean, I think it would be cool to just have like the Arkham Knight open world that they established. Like it was a big, deep open world. So to have that open world maybe a little bit more polished, up-resed, and then like just play with like 3 other friends and like just like not only do the main campaign, but then also do like the side missions where you're going into Batman lore and like side missions like and side villains and sort of like B and C tier villains and sort of solving mysteries along the way. I think that'd be pretty cool, but I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see exactly the reason why. It certainly could be something as simple as just like a balancing issue. Like they maybe tried 4 players and then it didn't feel right.
Yeah. Again, I'm just watching the trailers right now, and That's probably my guess that it was more interesting for them to balance it from a two-person perspective, whereas if they had to scale up the number of NPCs versus 4 players,
Hmm.
it would just run the risk of turning into a button masher.
That's a
if you're
good
to do
point,
so well.
actually. I didn't think about that with the with the NPC like fight population. That actually makes sense.
Hmm.
So, what do you think of? So, you watched the Suicide Squad one as well.
Yeah,
What do
that's
you
exactly.
What do you think
That's,
of that?
honestly, I'm disappointed. The fact
Me
that
too.
why it's 2020. Why are we watching full motion videos right now?
Yeah, especially because there had Arkham Knight came out back in 2015. Rocksteady's been totally silent, and
Yeah.
this game isn't apparently coming out until 2022, and that's all we got was like a CG animatic. It was pretty underwhelming.
hmm There is one interesting idea for them to take the perspective of the bad guys and have Superman being the last boss, the most probably the last antagonist they're going to have to face. Like that makes perfect sense from that in universe explanation, but it's just again show me what the game looks like.
Yeah, I almost wish they hadn't shown anything, honestly, until they were ready to show gameplay.
hmm Sean D, what do you guys think?
Just seems like Suicide Squad is. I get it. I get that Harley Quinn has been rebooted and like people want to ride on all the Harley Quinn merchandise and shit and just
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, we've seen enough Superman's gone rogue stories, and DC, you can't out Brightburn. Brightburn, just give it up, please.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did you like that movie?
I only know about the concept.
Oh.
But
Yeah, I mean it's okay. It's not a. It is a cool concept. It's not a like amazing movie though.
Yeah, it was entertaining for sure. I definitely liked it, but like you said, it's not. It doesn't change the world.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the sentiment that it could be just like them trying to redo Brightburn or something, but I think it's actually more so people are still on the for comic fans that like the story of Superman always tends to like we want to see that turmoil of him, and there's a lot of comics that did well that a lot of people can remember that put Superman in a situation that wasn't heroic. So that's why it feels like that there people are just doing a copycat of that over and over consecutively.
well,
I mean,
another angle to look at it is that Superman is often seen as like highest tier superhero, so people tend to overlook other supervillains and superheroes because on the virtue that they're not Superman. So in one way, I can see the hook of the game being like, hey, what if you get to play as these guys and bring their A game to a point where they can take down Superman? Even if one is jaded with those Superman gone rogue stories, that's still a marketable thing to do.
yeah, I mean, and
Right,
those
right.
stories are only they're not in games. Like we haven't seen that stuff in games, so it's not that it's not necessarily a played out like storyline, but like
But what about Injustice then? I mean,
I just didn't realize that there's a boomerang
I
hitting.
mean, it's a fighting game, sure, but like as an actual like story, like a story-driven game, like we haven't really seen that. Like there's a story, there's a story in Injustice for sure, but like it's a fighting game first and foremost.
hmm
Yeah, and a lot of guest characters that don't really necessarily add to the lore. It's just more like paying lip service.
Yeah.
I mean, why does the Suicide Squad have to do, I don't know, a good thing? Like the whole point is that they're villains. Just let them be bad.
Well, I mean, they're forced to. They have
Yeah.
bombs in their heads.
yeah.
Well,
The
I
only
know.
thing, the
Well,
only thing that I'm a little disappointed about is that aside from like King Shark basically being swapped out from Killer Croc, like the roster is almost the same as the movie. I kind of wish
Yeah.
they had brought in different characters.
I mean, what? But come on, there's Captain Boomerang. I just
Yeah,
hope.
he's back, and he's exactly the fucking same. He's a drunk guy with like fucking boomerang powers who can, I guess, teleport now. I don't know.
Wait. Is that other guy? I'm watching it in mute so that I can hear you guys. But is that other guy Slipknot, the guy who can climb anything?
Oh, that's
I
not
didn't-
in there.
No.
No, I think
no.
I mean I only remember Deadshot, Harley Quinn, King Shark, and
Yeah,
then
the guy that
Boomerang.
can climb everything from that stupid movie got blown up. He was just there to
The
get
rope
blown up.
dude. Rope
yeah.
dude. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
He's
the climber or some shit. I don't know.
So stupid. My special powers is tying knots. That's what I do.
he can climb anything.
He can climb anything.
His power is basically every other guy on Tinder.
You climb thin air just like Spider-Man, the webs in the air in the PS2.
Oh god.
His other power is probably really like in The Office.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
Eh. But okay.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully we'll see. So, does anybody even know what the game is gonna be? It's gonna be like? Is it gonna be a co-op? Like,
This is all we know.
That's all
This
we
is
know.
literally the first thing that they've shown in 5 years. So, and they haven't, to my knowledge, they haven't shown anything else. And I was looking at like up articles and stuff to see if they said anything, but to my knowledge, they have not.
okay, seeing how Marvel is releasing their Marvel games as a service, do you think they might try to copy the same?
I fucking hope not.
I feel like that's what they might go with either. I even feel like that could be the case with the co-op game with the
Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely
this
feel
point,
like that's
I'm
probably what that one's going
Yeah,
for.
yeah. I'm not like at this point with games.
We have
I
no
just-
idea what
yeah,
Rocksteady's
like,
doing.
I'm just gonna be like whatever. It's gonna probably happen. I don't even like. I'm not gonna assume that it's not gonna happen.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Sure. All right. So, what about the Batman trailer? What did everybody think of that?
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I'm still not gonna hold my breath of like if it's gonna achieve.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, we're all gonna hold our judgment until the movie actually comes out. But just like in
Right.
terms of impressions of the trailer,
I like
yeah,
the
I liked it.
visual.
yeah, it looks cool. And based on what Matt Reeves, the director and writer, what he was talking about was like. He really is. It seems like they really like. I mean, I am hoping this is what the final film actually is, but it seems like they're really emphasizing the detective aspect of Batman this time around, where he's like, it's actually him having to prove, like, for once on film, like in terms of live action film, that he is the world's greatest detective, which is what I want to see personally. That's like to have it be a murder mystery, like first and foremost, and then everything revolve around that is like. That's what I really want to see in a Batman live action movie. So that sounds really cool to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Has that good feeling of that feeling of what is the play between the murderer and the detective,
Right.
and like how like the murderer is teasing the detectives. It's very very. I feel the noir in it, which is great.
Yes.
We haven't seen like Batman in a really good noir situation.
It's a different angle for sure, but maybe I'm just missing my cue here. But like, so is it confirmed that the Riddler is in this movie?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, Paul Dano is playing the Riddler, but it's not confirmed that he's like the main villain.
Exactly.
He's just like one of the villains.
Yeah, I was
What?
talking to. I mean, me and Paula were talking about this, and I suggested that it could be they could be playing the audience, and it's a story. It's not just a story about like the Long Halloween. It could be also a mix of like Hush, even. Like they'll take
Yeah, I mean,
points
and
from
yeah,
that
they
and put into it.
yeah they said that it's like partially based on the Long Halloween, but even in the Long Halloween, there are many villains
Yeah, there was
in
a lot
play
that was
there,
in it,
and
yeah.
like. And like the Holiday Killer and stuff, and like it takes place over a whole year, so like there's a lot of different villains that sort of come in and out of the story. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I mean, we already know that Penguin's in it. Like we saw him a bit in the trailer, and yeah, there's some other hints.
Interesting. I'm an uncultured swine. What is the Long Halloween?
It's a graphic novel. It's one of the sort of seminal Batman graphic novels.
What's the focus of the story?
Everything.
It's sort of like what you like. Basically, like it's sort of like just on a super basic scale. It's almost what you saw in the trailer, where it's like it starts with a string of murders, and it ends up it takes place over the course of a year, and like it sort of unwinds into this whole conspiracy involving like multiple villains, and yeah, it's just So it's again, it is primarily like a murder mystery first, and everything revolves around that. So if they take cues from that, that definitely sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, if you look up just like Batman top 10 or top 5 or whatever,
yeah, it'll
like,
always
it
appear
will always
there
be
for
there.
sure.
Yeah, it was
What do you guys
probably
think of
the
the
only
visual style of the movie?
Yeah, cinematography looks solid for sure.
It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they're using Liverpool as a stand-in for Gotham. That's pretty cool. I think that's the first time they've ever used like a non-American city as a stand-in for Gotham City. So it's interesting.
That is
All right.
cool. Oh, okay. Guess we're done.
Well,
with the topic.
I mean, you can keep going. This is just yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm. So my one question: have people stopped finally complaining that the what's his face is going to be the new?
No, of course not.
Batman?
They won't stop complaining
Oh,
until they
they'll-
see the
yeah,
movie and
everybody will
undoubtedly
complain,
say, "Oh man, he was great. I was totally wrong." Because it happens
Yeah. It
almost
happened with
every
Heath
time.
Ledger, too.
Not quite every time, but
Right.
almost every fucking time.
Yeah.
Like I'm so sick of hearing that because it's like, just wait until the movie comes out. If the
Right.
movie
Yeah.
sucks and he sucks, by all means, rip him apart. Until then, just fucking shut up. Like it's so because this is, I mean, the furthest one I can remember back is with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in 2002, and everybody was like, he sucks, he's going to be terrible. And, you know, obviously people changed their tunes, at least with the first two movies, and it was just like, but it happens with literally every time. I mean, even with something like James Bond, going back to the 60s, where they were like, Sean Connery sucks, he's going to be a terrible Bond, and it happens every time with every Bond. It's just like, just wait for the movie. Come on, learn.
Yeah,
It's funny how they always bring up the actors like previous like bad movies into
Of
the
course,
limelight.
yeah, because every actor only does great shit. Like, like, come on, like every actor has at least one bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, what are they expecting? This is gonna be like Twilight all over? Like, you know, Batman's gonna be like, look at me, I'm a monster, and he's like, you know, Bat Signal is just gonna look like a whole bunch of glitter.
Michael Keaton can't play Batman because he was Johnny Dangerously.
He's
and
actually.
We can't have Batman as a goofy mobster. That's just unheard of.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson's really come into his persona as a really good, really good actor.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I saw the that one where he was in the Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse, yeah.
The William Dafoe in it. I only saw parts of it, honestly, because I was just catching it as Brenda was watching it, and it's really just like...
it's a good...
crazy.
I mean, yeah. The movie itself, yeah, it's a good movie. For sure,
yeah.
Like, the acting in it between Dafoe and Pattinson is top-notch.
Mm-hmm. They were stuck there, too. Like...
Yep.
Just the two of them. Oh, well, you know, plus the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. The cabin fever was real.
Yep.
That's really cool.
It was interesting.
I should catch that movie. I really want to watch a good black and white movie.
Yeah, I think you'd like it. It's got like Lovecraft themes as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
Even better.
Yep.
Yeah, there's semen in there. You love it.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe fucks
did
the
not-
giant squid.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, my bad.
What, he just takes out a
I won't
giant
say
axe?
anything else.
Does he take out a giant axe and start hacking at it and then dies, and he has to repeat it over and over until he throws his control and frustration?
Maybe.
Or is that just my random experience of Bloodborne?
Maybe.
maybe.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, there's also
Catwoman.
yeah, Catwoman's in it.
Yeah,
I have
Zoe
the-
Kravitz is Catwoman.
Yeah, it was just fine. There's no, I have nothing to add to that, honestly. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Casted.
Yeah, the cast is great.
Yeah.
I will say, in terms of, because Colin Farrell plays the Penguin, and we see him a couple times in the trailer, and I freeze framed it several times, like on his. I can't fucking tell it's him at all. Like, his makeup is fantastic. Like, I was like, is that really him? Like, because you know, we've known that he's gonna be Penguin for a long time, and I was just like, man, that makeup is fucking pristine.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's
really cool.
insane. I don't know. Like, okay, so the only, like, this whole DC fandom or whatever the fuck they call it.
Fandom.
Fancom?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Foundcom.
Pretty much the Batman movie is the
Sorry,
thing that I've
YouTube.
been like rewatching. You know, like that's been
Same,
like,
for sure. That's the highlight for me, for
that
sure.
was definitely the highlight of everything. I think if I were to put one under that is like, what was it? It's just we already talked about is between the games, like those are, you know, interesting. And then of course they got like stuff like from Suicide Squad, which is like, you know.
Oh, the behind the scenes stuff,
Yeah, they did have like that intro trailer for each character. I'm like,
Right.
I'm gonna wait till it comes out, but you know, hey, it looks like they're having fun, and it looks like they're, you know, I don't know, putting something wacky together. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, James Gunn. That's
Oh yeah,
I'm
right.
Definitely.
I made this
have-
one point with Brenda. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off, but Harley Quinn is wearing clothing.
I know, right? They don't just keep her in panties like in Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. At least that's the. I bet you should put that in the contract. Please put clothes on me.
Probably. She did have a big problem with that. Yeah.
I mean,
Did she really?
well, it was
Yeah,
cold as fuck too. Like physically.
Yeah.
They were in like constant rain.
Yeah, I can see that.
With like, how early of the shoots are those? They're like fucking like 3, 4 in the morning or something.
I mean, like, obviously they did that to show off Margot Robbie, but I don't even know why they put Harley Quinn in that, because she always has like a mini skirt or something on. It's really fucking. It's just like, I don't know. Like a lot of choices in that movie, I don't understand it.
Yeah. No, it was too many. It's kind of like too many chefs in the kitchen type of thing. That's what it.
Oh
like.
yeah.
Like it's like no, we gotta do this. No. It's like, dude,
Just put
we
a
gotta
million different
direct
cuts
it.
of a movie together and hope it's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wonder like how pissed like the director was when they fucking did that.
I remember him saying he was pretty angry.
Yeah. Like
People
he's-
really like the trailer. I guess they'll just want to watch a trailer for 2 hours.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the problem when you start creating things in a committee.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Well,
like-
yeah, that and like the fact that, you know, you take all the creative stuff away from the creative people and give it to the fucking
Yeah.
corporate fat cats who just want the money. We just want it to be Avengers. Just make it Avengers. Why can't you do that?
Do
Like, come-
Avengers like that. That's the contract.
Yeah,
Do Avengers.
that's it. That's all the contract says.
Yeah.
You see the producer with a cigar in the back.
The two Avengers.
Yeah. Do Avengers. He's like yelling in the background. Everybody's going all like quiet on the set. He's all like, do Avengers. In the background.
He's like texting the director during scenes. Hey, do Avengers. Remember, do Avengers,
Yeah.
or you're fired.
It turns out that all the little pranks that what's his name was doing. What's his
Oh,
name?
Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Leto.
It was
I'm gonna
actually
send
the
you a
producer.
fish in an envelope.
Yeah, the producers were the ones that were doing it. They're like, maybe this will get them to do Avengers. Do Avengers. It'll
Hey,
get them
Jared Leto,
psyched.
you can take credit for that. I don't know if they'd have want to. It's okay. We're just gonna fill out a bunch of condoms, and send them to the crew. Again, I don't think I really want to.
Come on, you're a weird guy. It fits with your personality. Just do it.
Just do it. So gross. But anyways,
know,
yeah.
At least Jared Leto has, unifies everybody across all generations, time and space into agreeing that he is the worst Joker that's ever graced the silver screen.
Oh,
Disgraced the silver screen.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
you
mean,
could say it's
I
all
do
his
agree
fault.
that he's the worst of the film Jokers,
Yes.
but I didn't mind seeing a different interpretation. It's just that like the writing was just so poor, you know?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about it this way too. Like the amount of massive cuts that they did. He only showed up like what, twice in the movie?
Yeah.
Like
Something
he had
like that, yeah.
it would literally. Okay, it's like how can I mean? I don't even know. I don't like. Okay, so first of all, I don't like his design. His design looks
Oh yeah, the
fucking
grill
dumb.
is terrible.
like
Yeah.
absolutely
But
dumb.
come on, those tattoos were so subtle. Damage on his forehead. Get it? Because he's damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what? That's what that means? Oh
What?
shit!
That was the meaning behind it all.
4 years later, I finally get it.
Oh my
It's like they
God.
think we're stupid.
I mean, yeah, that's how they were treating the
They were
audience.
definitely treating the audience that way. Like, you want a movie or you want some giant, pew pew pew, flashy cards? Oh my God! Quip here, quip there. Everything just blended in the giant blender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. Oh, right. And the least favorite thing, fucking that Black Adam thing. That was dumb.
I still haven't watched it.
The what?
Don't even bother. It's a
Yeah, I don't really
teaser.
want to.
It's an animatic. It's just pictures with fucking The Rock
Yeah.
explaining who Black Adam is, and it's like animatics. I'm all like, don't show anything if you don't have anything. That's it. Like, it's as
Yeah,
simple
for
as that.
sure.
Stop trying to force the whole hype train for it,
Yeah.
because it's not working.
No.
Or I mean, maybe it does work for some people, but like, it's not working for me at least.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that sentence you said. Black Adam, he's shown as animatics in where? From whom?
Okay, so they have a Black Adam teaser with The Rock explaining the backstory of Black Adam, but with an animatic in the background. Basically, just pictures that are kind of moving around, tweened together. Very
Right,
kind
it's
of-
almost like a motion comic or something.
Oh, I
yeah,
see,
yeah.
I see.
So it's it's pretty bad. I hated that. It's just like, just like, don't announce it then. Like, fuck, like, God.
Yeah.
How
we
long?
got nothing, but we got The Rock.
Yeah, that's the problem. Black Adam has been in like this fucking nightmare of a production that, like, is it coming out? I don't know. We already know
They
that
literally announced that The Rock was going to be Black Adam like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's just like, who fucking, like, are you gonna ever do it, or what's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
please, can you just not do that?
Yeah.
It's
Maybe they were finally gonna enter pre-production by 2020, and then everything,
it's
and then everything
It's-
changed when the COVID nation attacked.
I just have I just have to say that them doing that is just another example of them with the DC fandom thing trying their best to build up hype, and it's just like,
Yeah.
maybe it's working for some people, maybe it is, whatever.
Build up hype by releasing quality movies. How about that, DC?
Exactly, yeah, just
Like honestly, the last few movies have improved for sure from what they were. With like Shazam and Wonder Woman and even Aquaman. Like I thought Aquaman was fun enough. Like it's solid enough of a movie. Certainly way better than something like Batman versus Superman or Justice League.
yeah.
I like Birds of Prey too. Like it was
Yeah,
fun
Birds
for
of
what
Prey
it
was fun. That was fun enough as well. Yeah.
That was the last time I went to the movies.
My
I
God.
missed them.
Honestly, like the only thing that I actually forgot that was even a movie. It was kind of forgettable for me, but like
Yeah.
the only thing I can
Yeah.
remember that I enjoyed, I think, was the small bits with being in Gotham. Like like you didn't get a Gotham story. We always got like
Yeah.
Batman and like there's Superman, there's Justice League. It's always about those characters, but you never got a Gotham, like centralizing Gotham itself, like what's going on there. So
Yeah, it's been a while
Yeah.
since Gotham has been like an interesting city on screen for
right,
sure.
right. It's not Schumacher like nonsense.
I feel like it's since like maybe like Batman Returns. I feel like was maybe the last one where Gotham was like an actual like weird like super zany like gothic city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the city itself had a personality.
Right, it was its own character.
Right. And in this one, it felt like I got an idea of like what it was like to live there because everybody was kind of a consequence of that world, and it was cool and to kind of get this like, oh, you know, Harley Quinn is some murderous crazy bitch, but you know there was some people that like, you know, maybe not cared for them, but there was like this really weird truce between rogue people, you know. Like, you know, like, if you've seen it, like, there's this part where she gets outed out pretty much by the people that, was it the owner of the restaurant or something like that? And just, like, small things like that was interesting. Yeah. It's like, she had to have some allies at some point, right? Like, there's no way, like, how could she survive without having somebody that was helping her at some point and then betray her later?
Right.
So, I wish they just did more of that stuff and, like, not kind of overcomplicate it with the with Black Mask story, I guess. I mean, I like Black Mask. I like that actor.
Yeah, I like Ewan McGregor as Black Mask.
Yeah.
He's very he's sort of, I like the way he sort of played it up, and he was very like scenery chewing, but like it worked really well.
Yeah. I think also it was cool with Zaz being in there, like how they had this weird relationship between the masochism that they both kind of shared. And the quirk that Mask had, which is great that they had that in and he played it up, where he has to clean his hands, and he's just like obsessed with that. He has like anger issues with it, but yeah, I think that was probably the most memorable part of the movies. Yeah, I do agree though that the movie quality has been going up, so I think maybe they're just learning their lesson to just let the director do their job.
Yeah,
you know,
don't just make a movie by committee.
Yeah. And did you know that they brought in what's his name, John Wick did the stunt coordination for Birds of Prey. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense because the action, you know, while sometimes not the best, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, apparently like the whole fight scene where they were in the that weird funhouse place was the one that they had to edit and coordinate after the fact, because the director like really noticed like if they didn't do that, then they would have like pretty much a non-existent fun fight stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, he came in to punch it up some more.
I see.
Yeah, so maybe at that point, maybe they're learning their lesson, and it's like, okay, maybe we should just actually focus on trying to, like, if we're gonna make something actiony, like really put more effort into it, because that was something seems like they were saying that they had to edit that. That was like the last thing they did. Everything was already shot, and then they was lucky enough to get all the cast members in for this one last thing.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
Yeah, so it could be the flaw that if they had it planned out beforehand, maybe it would have been better. Because I don't think it was that great. Like,
for sure.
And then I can't imagine what it would have been before. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if they didn't do it, it probably would have been like even more boring.
They're finally catching up to the idea that, you know, it's not enough to say, hey, let's do Marvel but edgy. And rather that they actually have to put some sort of
make their own identity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They actually, you know, they're finally figuring out that they have to actually put some effort into the cinematography, put some effort into
put effort into making a movie, guys. Come
on. Like, you know, I mean,
no disrespect to any of the like directors who came before it, but like, you know, come on, like, you can do better.
Yeah.
Right,
and again, it's a lot of it does come from naturally the corporate guys who don't even like movies and don't understand what it is. But you know, I do hope DC continues their upward trend, because I think, you know, I really love the Marvel movies. I think we all do, but it would be cool for one day for it to be like, oh man, that DC's actually like competition for the MCU now. Like,
Right, there's actually some sort
they're
of
all great movies. Like, I want to see them all.
yeah, there's a competitive trend going on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like their humor is also working in that, they're not overdoing it, which is one of the things that that it's a constant, criticism of the Marvel movies, that they're putting the humor in the movie, and it's, fun to watch, but it's not, not every scene has to be a joke.
Right. You know what? Actually, maybe we can segue this into our main topic, was the clones of media. Let's just
true.
it actually
That's
works.
actually, that is a good segue.
That is it, and I'll bring it up, like what I'm thinking. So, and we can
Bring it up.
totally go back. Like this might even take even longer to record, but I think this is good. That we'll do it. So I propose that thinking about or talking about how the hero genre movie has been kind of clones of each other, and then how like they're learning wrong lessons sometimes, and then others are learning like cloning it, but emphasizing something that was good. They're elevating it. So like, if anybody has any ideas on that, go for it. I'll just put in my 2 cents.
I mean, why
in
don't
a
you
broad
just
stroke.
jump into it?
Yeah. My broad stroke, I would say, is that definitely, Spider-Man, like, kind of put the hero genre in a way in movies that you can take it more seriously, just like a little bit more seriously.
You're talking about the 2002 Sam Raimi?
Yeah, the Sam Raimi, like kind of put it
Yeah.
there, and then we have stuff like Dark Knight, and then Iron Man that really kind of just broke some ground. One where Dark Knight took it even more seriously, grounded it, and now people are kind of copying that idea, which I can also say for costume-wise, it's interesting that they pulled that off, where it's like it's realistic within the world, and on top of that, it's believable. Not everybody's in spandex. It's not just a joke. And then the opposite.
Well, yeah, they also focused, like Nolan focused on characters and story.
Yes. And then Iron Man elevating the digitized suits, right? Like the having it like that complexity, and that kind of idea of like, he's not just like separate from Tony Stark and Iron Man. He is one person, and he doesn't need the secret identity, and that kind of like elevated to another level, right? Like now we seeing the. So that's the thing about like what was so hard about like movies trying to portray a hero, is like, how do you do that when there's two personas and you have to kind of battle that smash it in, and it's hard to relate. Like nobody really relates to that. But Spider-Man did a good job of relating to it, because now it's like his job is Spider-Man, but his life is getting kind of bleeding into each other. So,
which is what Spider-Man has always been.
Exactly. So like nailing that, like that's the kind of some like the elevated clones from each other, like it's kind of evolving. And then now we got things like, the movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, you can still be quirky and fun, and we can blend the realism and non-realism and not have to like adhere to it too much. So it still can be fun and just driven in those kind of aspects. Maybe it's like, it's not exactly, like high level thinking cinema, not even there, not even close. But then other people cloning from that is that like now it's just all those movies are your quirky, funny things that really you don't learn anything from it. Like there's nothing happening there. There's no content past it. But Guardians of the Galaxy did it their way, and they started it that way, which was great that they were able to kind of bolster up that IP, I suppose, or the heroes that no one ever really knew, and had that rogues gallery of like just like those characters like emphasize like they don't have to necessarily be heroes. Like they have moments of being a hero, but they're still technically thieves. They're still criminals, and like other movies are trying to like learn the wrong lesson from that, which I would say Suicide Squad learned the wrong lesson, where like they tried to blend in that kind of like comedy with them, and it just didn't work. Mainly,
well, I mean, like, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think that. Not that you were saying this, but I don't think that Suicide Squad is a clone of Guardians. But it definitely was. It took a lot of cues from that movie,
Right,
obviously, by
right.
just putting a bunch of like misfits together and having their wacky personalities sort of take center stage over like actual character development and story. Which like I'm not like we've talked about this a lot like off the air and in the past, but like I'm not the biggest fan of like Guardians of the Galaxy, but I do love the characters and I love the world that they establish. And you got, I mean, story and characters always, it has to be the forefront. Like you have to put that first and then have everything else after that. Like you have to, otherwise it's gonna come out to something like the Suicide Squad, or like again, like we've talked about a little bit before, something like the Umbrella Academy, which I don't personally like, and it feels like Umbrella Academy to me feels like the wrong way to do Guardians of the Galaxy, which is Suicide Squad. Like the Umbrella Academy feels like the Suicide Squad to me, where it's like we're not going to put too much effort into the story and the characters. Like they're going to have their own quirks, and we're going to put comedy here and there, but there's not a lot of depth there, and even the depth that is there is not high quality. But what we are going to do is show you a lot of fight scenes with popular and really like classic music, and we're just gonna have just that, and that's gonna be the crux of the entire production. And if you don't like that, then you're not gonna like the television show, like because that was the whole thing with Suicide Squad, where it was like the trailer. People were so hyped about that movie because of the trailer, because it was, or the trailers that came out with like like the Queen
right.
songs and stuff, and they were like, oh man, if you like if I really like this trailer. And the whole time I was like, I mean, you like Bohemian Rhapsody, you like the song, like I feel like you're missing the plot, like you're not seeing the forest through the trees here. Like it's this is not a good trailer. And that eventually became what we all saw the movie, and the trailer is indicative of what the movie was. Like it's very shallow, but there's a lot of good music in there, and that will, I think they were leaning on that to make that like a good movie. And unfortunately, I feel like that's sort of the route the Umbrella Academy took.
Right. That's I feel like that's the lessons that they learned wrong from like Guardians of the Galaxy. Just because like he had some sort of like one of the driving forces was the music that the playlist that was picked was how the story would be driven. That because it played a close role to the main character. And
right, there was a reason why he had that playlist and why he treasured it so much.
Exactly, there was a reason behind all that, and I feel like James Gunn's like everybody's learning the wrong lesson from there. Just because you put in the music doesn't mean that it's just gonna. It makes it exciting, sure, and he's like, oh, that's a cool version of it or whatever. But he put in those specifically for a reason, like for the character, so that you can feel for him and understand, like at least understand where he's coming from. Yeah.
I really want to test your theory, Apollo. We should make a trailer about something like most boring movie you can possibly think of, but just set it to Bohemian Rhapsody.
I'm pretty sure you can look that up
and see if
I'm
that's
sure
something.
you can do that. And here's a better way that you can
There was
like
some people-
here's another thing you can do like literally whenever you want. Just watch the Suicide Squad trailer without music. Like just turn the sound off. And
Yeah,
is it captivating to you? Like watch it with closed captions or something. Is that interesting to you? Like it's I think you'll be able to see it's probably not.
Yeah. You don't even learn anything from it. Like what's going on?
I mean, and this is a good like lead into just sort of like what we were talking about before, where like DC the movie in terms of the movie side, DC is steadily improving, right? They've sort of been steadily improving as of late in the last few years, and whereas I guess you could argue from Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman to Justice League, they were learning all the wrong lessons from Marvel because they wanted to rush to the Avengers because they knew the Avengers was like the cash grab, and they wanted to make their analogous Justice League. They wanted to make that as quickly as possible. So they just shoved together so many different stories in something like Batman versus Superman, where you're shoving in so many different like classic storylines of Batman and Superman fighting and Wonder Woman being in between, and then you're even shoving in something like Death of the Superman and like literally like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and you're just trying to rush to Justice League so fast without like building out these characters individually, which is why the Avengers works in the first place.
Yeah.
Because we get to Avengers after knowing these characters, after being with them, after like knowing their motivations and their setbacks and all these things. And then when you get to Avengers, you have all that clash. And you see now when you see Captain America and you see Iron Man at odds with each other, like from the jump on the on the helicarrier, on the shield helicarrier in the first one, you sympathize and empathize with both of them, because you know where they're coming from and you know why they're clashing. Like you understand their personalities and it makes sense, and you're like, oh man, I am really enjoying this. Whereas like you see Batman versus Superman, and then you're like, but like, why is he going after Superman? Like this doesn't like you understand from the first scene that it's like, oh well, he has this vengeance because Superman destroyed the city and he destroyed Wayne Enterprises and the little girl lost her parents and all this. But it's just like it's a very shallow plot device that Batman obviously learns from at the end, where he's like, you know what, I think I was wrong. And it was like, yeah, we know, like, if like you're Batman, you're the super genius guy, like you didn't think it through at all, which is fine. You were going on the vengeance side, but again, it speaks to that rushing aspect because they really wanted to get everybody together for Justice League. Yeah. So, and again, they made Justice League before they made Aquaman. The Flash movie still isn't out. Before they made anything about Cyborg or anything. So we just had all these characters mashed together, and we didn't really understand them, most of them.
You really just can't, cut corners when it comes to an ensemble like that. Like, like the kind of, ensemble that the Marvel, that was able to build up, and that the DC universe tried to, shortcut the way to. It just, it just demands a much more careful build up.
For sure.
So that the actual movie that you're gonna have as like, the team up, it's just going to be the payoff to like,
right.
to a whole universe that you've built up. I mean, because if we examine the original, Avengers, that's a really simple movie with like, a really simple plot. But because we already know all these characters, like, the entire movie is just pretty much a payoff. It's just a party,
right.
where they all get, finally get to have a, get together, and you all get to celebrate who they are.
Exactly.
Whereas that was one of my biggest gripes of like the Justice League, which I try to watch, but I never was able to get through the first half hour because there's just so much like plot exposition. Right. It's like, just let me watch the movie. Why am I just watching two beautiful people just talking to each other?
Yeah. Right, and they had to do that exposition dump because they hadn't set it up in previous movies, right? So it's like you just have to just force it in,
Exactly. Like, and they have to. Justice League is also the part where they're introducing all these different characters, which you have never met. So they have to introduce plot. They have to introduce all these characters, and they have to just introduce so much. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're doing in like a movie theater audience, like not everybody knows the characters that you're introducing at all.
Right.
Some degree, like.
I mean, which is different from saying that you don't know who Aquaman or Superman are. You just don't know who this version of those characters is.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing too. It's like, what if you got a person that's going into theater that is not a fan of any of that shit? You got to consider.
I mean, that's the thing. Most people aren't who are seeing these in theaters. Like, that's the thing with the. That's why Marvel movies kind of work. Like, if you watch every single one of them, like, you're gonna get more out of the Avengers movies, obviously. But a lot of people just go and see the Avengers movies. Like, they don't watch like most of the ones in between, like Spider-Man: Far From Home or Black Panther or anything. But they can still enjoy every Avengers movie. Like, it's still super fun for them, even if they're not getting every little bit that you can get from seeing all the movies.
Right. I mean, I've already met somebody that doesn't watch any of them, and they went in and watched one of the Avengers, or they watched Civil War, and they're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, why is Spider-Man here? Like, what happened?
Right.
Sure.
So, like, it's still possible to lose people in between movies.
For sure.
Sure, it's definitely. I mean, it's definitely possible. But even then, like, even if he doesn't understand what's going on, you compare Civil War to Justice League. He's not going to understand either one. But I would imagine that he would inherently see the quality in Civil War over Justice League, even if he doesn't get it, and even if he comes out where it's just like, even if I don't understand it and I don't like these movies, I can still see why this one is better than this one.
Right, just as it's just a movie quality itself. Like you didn't
Yeah.
have to like be invested that any of those characters were even there to a point where like you needed to understand them too much.
Right.
They were just like in then they treated it whereas like the story was taking the ride, not the characters itself. So it's like we're not over focusing on like every single character needs to have a backstory and you need to know it. Which is like Zack Snyder has like Watchmen, like
he's good visually.
He's only good visually,
good
and then they learned the wrong lessons, I guess, from Watchmen, where it's like they were like, oh, let's make it serious and gritty and have these heroes like be darker than like what we are perceived to know them as, and then on top of that, where he just like verbatims the original comic. To a point
Yeah, I
where
mean,
it's
that
this
was
weird collage. Whereas like Watchmen, sure, it was like exactly to the comic, and in Batman versus Superman and Justice League are just kind of just collages of visual cues from what we remember them from, which didn't mean that the story was. That means that the story took a back end. He just wanted to get to those points. Like we wanted to get to the point where they revive Superman and blah 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 and fight the whatever the fuck the guy's name is from Darkseid. Like he just made bullet points of where he wanted to go, but didn't like pull it together in this one story that like, okay, can it be followed without knowing any of these characters? Like there's even parts in other movies that are successful with story, and they didn't spend too much time on the characters there. Like Scarecrow.
Sure.
Like he's just one of the villains, like he has a very simple story. Like he's not like we know him as Scarecrow, and sure fans will know him more specifically, but anybody that's just watching it anew, they're just like, oh, this is a guy, this is one of the villains, but you don't need to know too much about him. We don't need to spend more time trying to figure out who he is and why he ended up the way he is.
Well, I mean, in Scarecrow in the Nolan movies, like he's like there's a little bit of exposition, but it's mostly like his like it's everything that's interesting about him is mostly demonstrated through his actions. Right?
Yeah,
Like it's what he's doing that sort of informs the character for most of the audience, so that's why it works. I mean, that's sort of the thing. Like a lot of times less is more. You don't necessarily need all this dialogue and all this stuff to show who a character is if that character only has a specific function. And like you were saying, Carlos, that's just one of the many things that the Justice League movie just couldn't get down, because like not only were they doing exposition dumps so that they were trying to make sure everybody understood, and you were shoving in all these characters that no one got. But then even when you got to these character moments where their actions should have sort of given them something of an identity to audiences unfamiliar with them, it just still sort of fell flat, and they were just caricatures. Like Aquaman in that movie is like, what is he? Like, who is he? Like, he's a surfer bro with like superpowers. Like, that's all he is. Like, there's not really more depth to him than that. Like, who is Barry Allen as Flash in that movie? Like, he's, I guess, like, kind of a loser who's, like, infatuated. Like, he's envious of Batman, and he's just sort of, I'm the comic relief, but there's not a lot more to me than that. And, like, I don't know. Like, it's just, like, there's nothing there in terms of dialogue or in terms of action that really makes me give a shit about any of the characters.
Yeah. the intro showing his father and stuff didn't really give me an idea of like why is he has a choice to join them, or like what's the motive behind him becoming a hero or wanting to become a hero. It was just not a lot of understanding on that part. I mean, he's just like a random scene put in there just to kind of push the story forward. Where it could have been just like, you know, they could have just like had things happen that converge them together to have to cooperate, instead of making it like, oh, freaking Batman's doing Ocean's 11. Who are you? You got powers. All right. What you about? Have a random moment of demonstrating their abilities. Yeah, I don't think that the Snyder Cut is gonna do anything. It's just gonna add more stuff, more just random reasoning.
Yeah.
So anybody else got like ideas of like what's clones of each other, and then like what parts got elevated or not elevated?
Speaking of Spider-Man, like there's been so many renditions of that character and those stories in films since the Raimi ones. And you know, some are good, some are bad. Whether we're talking about Spider-Man 1 and 2, or Far From Home, or Spider-Man 3, or the terrible like Amazing Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with you know, Jamie Foxx's Electro and his electric eel bullshit origin story, and all of that is just like that movie is the epitome. And you know, Paul Giamatti is the fucking Rhino, but he's just like a fat Russian tattooed guy. Like that's it, and it's just like there's not a lot to that. Like
what a waste. Seriously, so just a little bit tangent there. What a waste of Paul Giamatti.
I mean, what waste was so many great actors in that movie, right? Like that movie had a pretty goddamn good cast, even like in terms of the Green Goblin and everything. But I mean, those two movies specifically, they hinge on Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's chemistry. That's it. Like that's all it is. Yeah. Like that is literally the only reason to watch those movies, is because they're so good as Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. But I mean, amazing. Another thing about that one is that, like, you know, yet another great actor is Green Goblin. He had a lot of potential there, and he had no purpose in the story at all, other to appear in the last 10 minutes of the movie as Green Goblin, finally, just to kill Gwen Stacy. Like that was his sole purpose in that movie, is just to show up at the end to kill her. Like that's it. Like it's so uneven.
Yeah, and the death of like Gwen Stacy, I'm sure that everybody knew that she was the.
Sure.
Everybody's aware that that's a thing that happens, but for everybody else who doesn't know about the character and who doesn't know that she's gonna die, I'm sure that they probably were clued in and like within the first 10 minutes, because she gives like the most like somber like valedictorian speech in her graduation.
Right.
Like she goes on some sort of tangents like, life is precious because it ends and people die. You just like yours truly, it's at some point. Wink, wink, notch, notch, hint, hint.
Right.
Yeah,
this is not foreshadowing at all.
I know. That movie is so subtle. Poor Andrew Garfield. Like he was actually a really big fan of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, he actually he was like petitioning for Spider-Man to be in the MCU before Spider-Man was in the MCU. So like, even though I'm sure he wasn't happy about being fired. Like he did say when like Spider-Man finally came to the MCU, he's like, I'm happy he's there because he's best served in that universe that they're crafting.
Right. Anybody else have like ideas of media, any sort of media that's kind of a clone of each other? Whether it be taking right lessons or wrong lessons from.
I came up with a topic last week, but for the life of me, I can't remember what I was thinking.
the Souls games.
I think you were
Oh,
talking about Souls, yeah.
Yeah, but you already had something in mind, right, Apollo?
I mean, I had a couple of things. D'Angelo, do you have anything?
I gotta be honest, I just wing it today, but like because I can think of a lot of clones, but right now I just got lost in the coils. So
Okay.
yeah,
Go for it, Apollo. You're ready. I can bullshit my way through Souls, but you already have something ready.
Uh, I mean, yeah, okay. Like I have, I'll just go through a couple of things. So the thing, it's not so much a genre as it is like a mechanic, and like I guess we were unintentionally started talking about it before when we were talking about Batman, but my thing was like the Batman free flow combat system, and sort of how that's been sort of translated through games. Because like obviously when Arkham Asylum came out, that free flow system was pretty great. Like it was unlike sort of any other combat system we'd seen. I feel like up until that point, and it just worked really well. Like the fact that it's called free flow system and the fact that it flows so well and it works so like perfectly even from the jump in Asylum when we first saw it is just sort of a testament to like how great of a system it is. But obviously we've seen that system translated throughout not just other games, but like even in that the Arkham series, like
Yeah.
they stuck with the same system in City and Night. But as I don't know if I said this on air, but as I was saying before, like in
Ghost
Arkham
of
Origins,
Oh.
no, in Arkham Origins, that system is taken, and WB Montreal they tweaked it just a little bit. Like I think as far as I remember, the only tweak they actually made to the combat system was making it so that when you press triangle to counter like a punch or a kick or an attack, like it delayed the reaction time for the counter by like literally a tenth of a second or something. But that minor tweak actually completely fucked the entire fighting system, and it made all the fights in that game really laborious to get through. And it's sort of one of those things where it's just like you don't have to fix what isn't broken. And they tried to, and it just didn't work out. But then you see the free flow system translated through other games like I don't know, like the Shadow of Mordor games. Like those are that's sort of like it's a direct sort of copy and paste right into that world where it's just like, okay, you're Batman with a free flow system, but instead you're a Gondorian ranger or whatever you are. Like you're a ranger and you have a sword instead of gadgets, but it works really well. And then I felt like something that sort of worked even better, maybe even better because of the character, maybe even better than Batman itself, was Spider-Man. Like because Spider-Man with the free flow system and the way that he like that in that game, the way that the free flow system works with how he fights, that's how Spider-Man fights in the comics. Like he'll punch a guy and then he'll flip back, and as he's flipping, he'll grab like a fucking manhole cover with his web, throw it at another guy, and then like he's always moving and using in his environment. And that game with that combat system, sort of, it exemplified. I feel like how Spider-Man should always fight in games. Like I feel like because like with Batman, even though the free flow system works really well in the Arkham games, it's always a little weird to see Batman like hone in on a guy across the room and just like vacuum to him like instantly. It's a little weird just because like that character doesn't work that way. Like he's not nimble like Spider-Man. Like he's not as nimble. He doesn't have superpowers like Spider-Man. Whereas like with Spider-Man just webs over or he just jumps over because he can do that because that's part of his character. So yeah, I felt like Spider-Man was an elevation of that free flow system, which has been used in so many other games. Even like something like Mad Max, which used it really well, but it wasn't to the level of Spider-Man, I feel like.
I totally forgot Mad Max existed.
Yeah, great game. A lot of people forgot because unfortunately it came out on the same day as Phantom Pain. which was always
yeah.
yeah. So a lot of people missed that game.
Yeah, yeah. I remember Phantom Pain. But that was back in the time when when I had that problem with Quato.
You want to
It,
explain that to the audience so they
do I,
actually know what
do I
we're talking
Okay, yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and explain it.
quick summarization of your Quado experience?
So yeah, basically it's what ended up happening is that I went to the hospital. Went to the hospital because one of my organs decided to be a dick and try to kill me. So got the appendix removed. They had bore a giant hole into my stomach or the side or wherever the freaking appendix is, and I had a good vacation for a whole month where I got to play the Phantom Pain.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
I
what,
really
that was the destiny. You had to get that.
yeah.
Your own
Yeah, and
Phantom
for
Pain.
anyone who doesn't understand who Quado is like this weird, like sentient tumor, basically, in this old movie called Total Recall. Not the newer one with Colin
Okay.
Farrell and Kate Beckinsale, where they like just completely exclude Mars and the mutant storyline. But yeah, he was a mutant. He was like attached. He was this little like tumor-esque like sentient dude who was attached to this big fat guy in Total Recall, and he's just sort of a cult classic, like weird character.
Definitely watch it if you haven't watched it. Like
Oh yeah,
He's the
it's
leader
just
of
such
the
a classic of
resistance,
the 80s.
man.
yeah.
It's got Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it has all
Yeah,
the
great-
classic lines
great
from
movie.
him. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a quintessential 80s action sci-fi flick.
Yep.
Lots of personality. That's the one thing that's among many of the things that the remake, was missing was a personality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was also the same director that directed RoboCop too, right? RoboCop.
Oh, was it?
I
think
no
so,
idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Let me see. But yeah, that's definitely one of the things about that combat system, right? That at some point, like every action game has tried to become Batman at some point.
Yeah.
What about like how there's been so many kind of was it Metroidvania clones out there now? They're just
Paul Verhoeven.
constant.
Yep. He is the director of RoboCop.
The new remake one, or the newer remake one.
The original one.
The original Robo. Wait.
The original RoboCop and the original Total Recall.
Oh, I see. I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about like the new Total Recall was the same as the new RoboCop.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. God no.
Okay.
I'm sure it's just some unknown guys.
But yeah.
Yeah. I was just mentioning it because he definitely has his own style. What else?
All right. So the Metroidvania thing. Like, what do you want?
Metroidvania. Huh. Interesting.
That's its own thing these days. A lot of people are cloning that
Yeah.
kind of like concept for their little mini games.
Yeah. One of my favorite
A lot
Metroidvania
of indie
clones.
games are using the Metroidvania format because it's their way of having a platformer that's also encouraging exploration too. So
Yeah, indie games.
Have you been playing a lot of those? I've only played
exploration
it a bit.
platformers. That would be the less trademark way of saying it.
What was I gonna say? Do you have any favorites, D? As far as Metroidvanias go?
I don't really as a genre because I do like the whole aspect of just collecting items and having a growth system in it. So not all Metroidvania games are going to have a growth system.
Right.
Shantae doesn't. But there's other games that do, like Bloodstain, which is basically Castlevania with the serial number shaved off.
I still haven't played Bloodstained. I really want to play those games.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty much Castlevania with a twin stick function.
Yeah.
Um, it does borrow a lot from the Game Boy Advance and PlayStation and Nintendo DS era of Castlevania games. And I say that in a good way because it pretty much feels like it's Castlevania. You have to remind yourself by the title screen that it's not part of the series
Right.
and is the spiritual sequel by every means of the word. And there's really nothing new or different about it. It just seems like it was created to fill in a gap that Konami wasn't going to fill themselves, and that's
Right.
there's no harm in playing it for that alone. Like not all clones are going to be something that's you know bad because
Yeah.
it's a copycat. Sometimes
For sure.
the copycat fills in a gap.
Yeah, I mean, Curse of the Moon, I think the prequel to Bloodstained was that's
Oh,
like
the 8-bit
that's
one,
like
right?
well yeah. Well, I mean, it's like 2.5D. But that one, that's like beat for beat Castlevania 3.
Yeah.
And that was fine because that's like people hadn't had a good Castlevania game in such a long time, you know? So it's yeah, I mean that can definitely be a good thing. I think it's all about quality, you know? People just want to get quality back.
Well, and people like to have different types of gameplay rhythms that don't get bored, repetitive, and counterintuitive.
Yeah.
One thing to consider about games where you can switch characters is that, yeah, it would be nice to have to switch between characters to solve certain puzzles, but while you're playing as that other character, you also want to feel like that other character is fun to play too.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to have one character who's carrying the entire game, and it's good to just balance characters where it's like, yeah, they might have some quirks and flaws, but those quirks and flaws aren't going to be so much of a deal breaker you want to avoid playing them all together.
Yeah.
That's
Have you played Dead Cell?
Dead Cells. That's a top view game, isn't it?
No,
No, it's a side scroll.
It's a side scroller.
Oh, it's side scroll.
It's what is that called? Roguelite, um, Metroidvania-ish, combat heavy game. Some people would, of course, sort of compare it to Dark Souls in level of difficulty, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, death
Which-
is part of the mechanic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good game. That's definitely a good mashup of like all of those different genres, right? Metroidvania, a little bit of like the Soul series, a lot of like the roguelite genre.
Has a lot of weapon and stat or like progression and stuff like that, and you can like explore the areas, but like it'll also change every time you die. So you're never gonna necessarily meet the same like exact area with the exact same enemies.
Yeah. It has a good flow as far as like the difficulty goes because it
Yeah,
as you
it
unlock
doesn't feel like it
as
heavily
you
spikes.
unlock new as long as you as you unlock more and new gear, much more dangerous enemies and much more varied enemies end up showing up.
Yeah, and you always like can upgrade your weapons and stats to a point where it's like you don't need to play the same way all the time to get through a spot, or you like have a favorite way of playing versus another one. And there's there's a couple like risk and reward type of situations where you're like, oh, you'll if you don't get to XYZ point or something like that, or kill enough enemies, you'll die at a certain time or whatever like that. But if you succeed, you'll get like a whole lot of treasure that you can use to spend towards your points and stuff like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's addictive. I remember playing a lot of hours, putting a lot of hours into that game.
Yeah, it was pretty enjoyable.
One of my favorite games on the Switch.
I haven't played too much of Hollow Knights.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned Hollow Knight because going into this topic, that's exactly where I was gonna go. I know I was talking before about a Souls game, but I think the Hollow Knight it's definitely um like the conglomeration of all those genres.
Mm.
Like it's definitely the conglomeration of both the Metroidvania games. There's a lot of there's the death mechanic from the Souls series, and it also has like that type of sparse sort of storytelling from the Souls games,
Mm.
where you never really know exactly what's going on, but you just get the feeling of the place.
Right.
And there's a lot of lore.
Is there a lot of environmental storytelling?
Yeah, yeah. You show up at at a bunch of places, and there's like um as soon as you enter like some halls, like the name of the place would be something like the Hall of Tears, and you'll see like a lot of structures from the things that used to be there. You just kind of wonder, it's like what happened here? How did this become like complete? How did this get completely um flooded with water, or destroyed in this way? Or why are all these tunnels? Where did these tunnels come from?
Right.
It's a really challenging game too.
Yeah, that's. I've been meaning to get to that game for a while, and I do want to get to it eventually for sure. Because that is like, I mean, we've had so many conversations ad nauseum about the Souls games and like what is lore versus story and all that bullshit. But like, it is a really, I mean, and the Souls games do it extremely well. But like, it is a really rare game to be able to find that balance between giving you just enough like lore and like environmental storytelling or what have you, and like without like, but like like giving you enough of that so that you feel intrigued and you want to keep learning more about the world and you want to keep going, but not feeling like you're getting no story at all. Like it keeps you intrigued and it keeps you sort of it encourages exploration, but it never feels empty. And that's some games have tried that and have failed miserably. And I think a lot of Souls-like games try that and they fail.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really rare thing, and I think it's still a thing that a lot of games are trying to figure out. I've heard a lot of great things about Hollow Knight, so yeah.
I recommend it. Mind you, the first couple hours of the games are actually probably the slowest. The game doesn't really open up until maybe 10 hours into the game, because you finally start unlocking a lot of like the like movement systems that you end up getting from that you end up unlocking.
Mm. It's a really long game, isn't it? It's like 40 hours or something.
Oh yeah, I easily put like 80 hours into the game, like
Nice.
unlocking
Damn.
everything. Yeah, there's a lot of DLC too, and for $15, oof.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the best. It's one of the best deals in gaming.
Noise.
But if you're really into the genre, I mean, if you're into the Metroidvania genre, you're gonna love this game. If if it doesn't do anything for you, it's not gonna change your mind over it.
Right.
One thing about the difficulty that is different from Souls. Souls has a very specific, type of gameplay in which, you know, once you press the button, you're committed to that action. You can no
Right.
longer cancel it. Whereas Hollow Knight is definitely a much more fast-paced game. Like you can cancel, you have a lot of aerial control when you're attacking. In fact, it does the thing, like in Shovel Knight, where you're attacked downwards, also
Yeah.
functions as a platform.
Right.
Yeah.
I love Shovel Knight.
Oh yeah, good game, huh?
Yeah. Have you played that game? It's another Souls game or a Souls like. I heard good things about the second one, especially the Surge.
The Search. Oh
It's
yeah.
like those diesel punk like
Yes.
robotic or like the exosuit.
You know what? Yeah, you know what it reminded me of? Did you ever watch the movie Elysium?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just made me
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. Like I think that whoever made the search probably watched the movie and was like, let's make that into souls. It had an interesting combat like upgrade system where you could target specific parts, specific limbs of an enemy. You chop it
Mhm.
off, and that's how you upgrade your character.
Huh.
Interesting.
So what? You chop off the limb and you get like the gear from that limb, or?
Yeah, so if like the robot that you're fighting has some sort of saw, you can get that saw. Does he have a hammer? You can get that
Huh.
hammer. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. Does he have some sort of electricity on application on it? You can get that stuff.
I always like that sort of stuff where they have like you can get the weapons of the enemies, sort of like a Mega Man type thing.
Yeah.
They actually had that. That's actually another great thing about the Arkham Origins game, because that had that where you would fight a boss. I can't remember what his name is, but he has like these electric gloves, and you would fight all these different bosses, and after you beat them, you would add their gear to your inventory, and you could use it. And that was so cool. Like I thought for sure they were going to implement that later on in Arkham Knight, but they didn't. So yeah, I totally forgot about that system in that game. But yeah, that was super cool.
Interesting. Can you give me an example of one of those powers?
I can't remember the name of the villain, but like Batman fights this guy who has like these electric gloves. Like he hits you and it'll shock you. And after you beat him, you take the glove from him and you like implement him into your suit. And it actually made the game a little too easy when you got that one. But like it was almost like an instant win. But yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, that was definitely one of them for sure. I don't remember like any of the other gadgets, but I remember there was like 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4 bosses in that game that would happen. Or it was like a Mega Man-esque rollover system like that, and that was super cool. You definitely don't see that very much.
It's interesting how classic and how how classic that kind of system is. Being able to get the properties from or the powers from the enemy you just defeated to be applied into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that mechanic. It's really fun. Feels like also kind of like you just that feeling of you conquered them and you're almost doing what they're doing because you might have like some admiration for like that's a cool villain.
Right, you like add it to your arsenal and it makes you even better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It also allows you to experiment,
Yeah.
Like, oh, now I have the power, to shoot fire. What can I set on fire on the world?
Cool. We're all right. So, does anybody else have anything to say about the question, the genre of media, clone of each other? Does it elevate? Not elevate?
Not necessarily. Well, I think it's something I'll probably come back to later.
Okay.
Cool.
I definitely, will lay down my towel with Hollow Knight.
Got it.
Wholly recommended it. But yeah.
All right, for those listening, thanks for listening to us and talk about some crazy shit. So DC and Marvel and some games in here and there. So we had a good variety show hopefully on this one. And we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening.
See you later.
Peace.
Of course.